This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Dr. Michalos, you helped us stay alive and live longer yesterday. What do you have to add to it?
Well, to follow up on what you just said about Winston Churchill's mom, who was from Brooklyn, he actually mentioned in front of Congress when he spoke, he said that he got his toughness from his mom, who was from Brooklyn. So there's another one for Brooklyn. But today we're going to discuss what you guys were talking about earlier, because we're hearing a lot about the bird flu. And since we all love a little bit of history to find out where it all started, it was first described back in 1878 in northern Italy by a gentleman named Dr. Edoardo Peroncito. And he noticed that there was a very high death rate in the birds, and he first identified that there's something called avian influenza or bird flu. And it wasn't until 1955 that it was found that it was actually a cousin of the human flu type A. And then between 1959 and 1995, there were 15 major outbreaks where they've had to kill millions of birds. Why do they have to kill so many birds? Because it spread so rapidly, and if it keeps spreading, it can wipe out basically an entire farm population of birds. The problem is that we've had the first reported case in humans in 1997, and the first severe case just back as recently as December 18th in the U.S. And the problem is that it's mutated and it's jumped to cows. It's been in chickens. Naturally it's found in wild geese and ducks out in the wild. But now that it's jumped to cats, and the recent issue with pet food you mentioned earlier is because some of the pet food contains chicken parts that are used in pet foods, and that's how the cows got it. And the CDC has been monitoring and finding it in the raw milk of cows in California, in Nevada, and they're doing it now nationally to track the flu, just like we used to track COVID in the sewer system, because it also goes out in excrements. That's how they're tracking this bird flu. The concern is that it is mutating, and unlike the COVID virus, if it mutates and starts to jump to humans and we have person-to-person transmission, we don't have that. So far, it's people who are handling chickens or on farms, like the fellow in Louisiana who had severe case. The really good news is that it does respond to current antivirals, the common one called osteomalvir that we use for flu right now in the United States. So right here on WABC, I'm saying that on January 20th at 2 o'clock, one of the first things our president has to do is start to stockpile and order a lot of the antiviral just to have it so we don't get caught if this thing starts to really mutate and starts going human-to-human transmission, because we have 61 cases in the U.S., but as a country, we need to be prepared, because right now a lot of these medicines are made in China, India. So we need to have our U.S. factories having this medicine available and our emergency stockpiles, and also the testing kits, because now there are testing kits that actually can test for flu A, flu B, and COVID. And adding the bird flu as one of our easy test kits, we really should manufacture a couple of million kits and have them in our stockpiles with all the billions of dollars we send all over the world, and the billions of dollars that we have to spend on the problems with our border. And
doctor, is this a derivative of the original Wuhan virus?
No, this is a separate virus that's been in wild geese and ducks that's been around, first discovered in 1878. And the problem is that in history, the Earth has a way when people start crowding together and moving in closer and closer. The same thing with birds. That's why they say free-range chicken. Open farms. When they're in these crowded cases, there's more diseases. That's why they have to feed antibiotics to chickens, because they have them locked up 20 in a little box. So in the way the Earth shakes people off, whenever
we should eat free-range chickens versus chickens that are 29 cents a pound.
Well, I think cooking it very well. I would not be eating things that are undercooked right now. I would not be drinking raw milk right now based on what we're seeing. So I think that's, something to consider. And also some people, if they really love their cats, they might consider giving them fish or mackerel or something like that instead of
no chicken.
Yeah, right now, just for now, I wouldn't choose that option.
Make sure you tell that to your wife, Curtis.
Oh,
no
absolutely.
no chicken for your cats.
That's right.
Yeah,
now,
the fish-based ones are better because it doesn't seem to go into fish.
Now, the other day I was amazed that the director, Francis Ford Coppola, best known for The Godfather, said he had polio when he was growing up. I did not know that. There are a lot of others out there who have had polio, and he said, do not do anything to restrict the polio vaccine, which a lawyer to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is known for wanting to eliminate the polio vaccine. Boy, that's pissing a lot of people off out there who actually went through this in their life.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. If they do that, you'll even see me standing up with a sign, you need to have the polio vaccine. If you watch the people, what they went through and what they suffer to be paralyzed from a virus.
What's the theory behind that? Why would he even think about that?
Well, the problem is that there's a lot of people who think that some of the vaccines contain certain things that are associated with autism. It hasn't really been proved yet. One of the things that I tell people is that if you do get the vaccines, I think getting them all at once, like they do sometimes to save money and save visits, the insurance companies, I think that may be a problem, just putting it all together. I think the kids tend to get sicker, and it might be doing something with the immune system. So I always tell my friends or with kids, or I'm a father of triplets, or 28 now, but when they were younger, I asked the pediatrician, can we spread them out over, 6 months apart, not just do like 4 or 5 vaccines in one shot. So I think that the polio vaccine must stay. It's critical. It's very important. And again, things that we have treatments for, it's very different. Like now with COVID, you have 3 different antivirals, so that's a different situation. So if somebody refuses to get a COVID vaccine, I can see that there at least is a treatment option. You get treated early and you get an antiviral. And even RSV now, the molnupiravir that they're using for COVID, it's about to soon get approved by Merck for RSV. That's going to be a big deal. So that changes the paradigm.
Now, Dr. Michalos, battle up in Capitol Hill will take place when we see Elon Musk square off with RFK Jr. They seem to be friends on everything other than the weight loss drug. RFK Jr. says, no, you shouldn't be using it. And Elon Musk is not only promoting it, he's obviously used it. He shrunk. Your opinion?
Well, the issue is that as anything that's new that comes out, whether it's a new model of a car or a new medicine, there's a bunch of cases now reported of intestinal obstruction. There's a class action suits. The lawyers are out there already. You're basically slows down your bowel, so basically your poop gets stuck in you, and some people end up needing emergency surgery. And there's an eye condition called non-ischemic optic neuropathy where you lose eyesight, and there are a couple of dozen reported cases. So this is what makes people nervous. Do I think these drugs are great and work? Yes, but probably just for a short-term burst to kickstart you. It's not an excuse not to eat healthy and to be eating a ton of French fries and hamburgers. But for short-term use, yes, it has a role. For long-term use, it's different. And they also showed that the people who are, for example, diabetics and extremely overweight, there's a lot of benefit. When you have these women or men who are just 10 or 20 pounds overweight and are taking it, they seem to be the ones who are having the greatest amount of complication. So I think that the problem is now through telehealth, people are just getting online, and some doctor in Oshkosh or wherever they are sitting is approving it without a physical exam, without proper lab work, and it's widespread, and that's creating shortages for the people who actually need it, and that's the people who are severely overweight. But there are side effects. So I think from what I've seen and a lot of the doctors I've been speaking to, yes, it has value in short bursts, like 3-4 months, just to get down to ideal weight and hook someone up with a good nutritionist. But yes, there are side effects. So I think there's got to be a happy hybrid medium between the two.
Now, on that note, doctor, I'd go to a doctor and they take your weight, they take your height. Now I see increasingly they're not weighing you. Why is that?
Because you only have about 15 minutes, and if you don't see a certain number of people, you will be fired. When I started practicing in the community where I was, 98% of the doctors were private. Now 98% work for some system, and a lot of these systems are group practices bought out by sub-hedge fund, and it's the for-profit model. And with that model, you only get 11 minutes. Go to your doctor.
11 minutes and you're out.
You're in and you're out. That's why the people who have the resources or the people who can find a private integrative concierge doctor who's going to spend 2 hours, go through everything, order all the biomarkers and test everything and then review it and then spend another 2 hours and then telling you what to eat, how to eat, which probiotics to take, which supplements to take. That doesn't exist anymore, and that's part of our sick care system. We need more preventive health, at least once a year. One of the things the new system should do is to allow a once-a-year comprehensive evaluation of what your numbers and your labs are. Just like you don't want to drive down the road without a dashboard, that's the same thing. We're living without a dashboard, knowing what your labs are, knowing what your sodium, your potassium, your calcium, all these things, your hormones as a man, all these things affect our health. So once a year, the insurance and Medicare should allow that. Another idea I'm throwing out there with Medicare is to give it a 501c3 status, make it a not-for-profit. So if people want to make a donation, they can help to subsidize the system and help seniors to boost and strengthen the Medicare system and also incentivize people to be healthy. If you're a smoker, you pay 20% more. Or if for every 10 pounds you lose, you get a 1% off your premium. Start incentivizing people. And also Medicare needs to reimburse for a nutritionist. Like if I was a diabetic, and I didn't have the resources, the insurance company, they would save so much money if they allowed 3 consults a year with a nutritionist where you can sit down and go over what you're eating and how to eat properly. But I think we're going to see a lot of change, and we're going to start looking at the food dyes, the colorings, the preservatives, and how they're affecting our health.
That's killing people long term.
It is. It's going to save us not billions. It's going to save trillions in healthcare because most of the money spent on us happens in the last decade of life. And the thing is not about lifespan; it's about health span.
And the countries with government they're saying, well, if you're up in your 80s and you need an MRI, forget about it. You have to wait 8 months. In those 8 months, you could die.
Well, listen, just like our friendly neighbors in Canada, there's an MRI place and CAT scan place in Buffalo, New York. And, there's one of our friends who wrote a famous book that we both know about the Baltic Wars. He was in Canada, and they told him 6 months. Meanwhile, I told him, get over to Buffalo. He got the scan, paid $400, and he had a brain tumor, but he wouldn't have known. So
and he would have died.
The problem is that's why the border hospitals up in Canada, they come across and they get their treatment in Buffalo because they're on waiting list. For a cold or something, that's great. But when you need a hernia, there's like a year and a half. So it's a problem. The same thing in England. People without any funds, they have to wait a year sometimes. They tell them for an MRI or for a cataract surgery. I know people in England, 2 years. And years ago, I used to have people flow over the United States because it was cheaper and you get treated right away at least. So that's part of the problem is access to care is very important. So we're blessed in America and people attack pharmaceutical companies, but you know what? They're the guys doing the research and people are investing money and spending a lot of money to get these new products out.
One last question, Dr. Michalos. Every day I open up the newspapers, another guy of note is in trouble because their hormones are out of control. They become sexual assaulters, sexual predators, sexual harassers, God only knows what. What about the good old-fashioned saltpeter? I know they used this years ago in the military and in the prison to calm men down. Why don't they ever prescribe that for guys who are getting themselves in trouble? You saw Matt Gaetz, RFK Jr. was alleged. It's Jeffrey Madry, number 2 in the police department. It always comes down to guys having hormones that are out of control.
Well, one of the issues is that nobody really likes to talk about a lot of these cases. Even there was no, I'm not going to mention a name, but a famous former governor, for example, if they're doing hormones or different steroids and stuff like that, guess what? It makes you hypersexual. It makes you might be showing off your muscles and with a buffalo hump, those big muscles on your neck. The problem is it also makes you more aggressive, nastier, and hypersexual. So that is a problem. It does affect behavior. So yeah, that could be part of the screening annually, or people who have that issue. You know, a blood test can figure that out. But now in New York, for example, a lot of the people who are unwell, a lot of it, you know, is also related to hormones and their health. And now with the bail reform, they just basically arrest people, no shower. When I used to work Rikers Island maximum security during the crack epidemic, when they came in, they got an amazing comprehensive physical lab work. We treated their diabetes. You know, we treated people if they had a hormone problem. They got their teeth fixed. They got their psychiatric meds, psych appointments. Now we don't help people or treat people, and people who are criminally insane and psychiatric problems. Blood work is very important. I can't tell you how many people that I told over the years, check your thyroid, who are on 3 antidepressants, and suddenly, you know, they treat the thyroid problem and they're off antidepressants. So our medicine now has become this quick sick care system, like in and out, 10 minutes. That's not the way to practice medicine. You need to spend time with the patient, and we need to allow physicians to pay.
We all agree. Dr. Peter Michalos, thank you. And please call into the Cats Roundtable on Sunday morning. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you, John and Curtis, for always getting the truth out. And today was an amazing show.